So I happened to be there in Israel too.
And so I was on a pilgrimage with my mom in Israel, and I turned around and I saw someone who looked super familiar.
Y'all, this Erika Kirk Israeli honeypot story just got way more sinister.
Does anyone else think this is Erika Kirk putting in fake tears into her eyes?
Let everyone see what true evil is. This is something that could impact a generation and generations to come.
Charlie Kirk's sister has stepped into the spotlight, and what she hints at could flip the entire story on its head. The airport chance meeting, the 3-hour burger interview, the sudden jump from job prospect to whirlwind romance, fans are asking if any of it was ever random. Emotions ran high the moment an old clip resurfaced. Erika smiling through a glossy sit-down, murmuring, "Nothing is by coincidence." That one line sent comment sections into overdrive. Insiders whisper about quiet staff swaps, unfamiliar faces hovering at events, and decisions made in rooms Charlie never walked into. Alleged family messages only fanned the flames. In one, a rattled line, "I don't even feel like I know her anymore." Supporters say it's grief talking. Skeptics see a breadcrumb trail.
Every time Erika got involved in a turning point event, something felt off. People got pulled from their posts for no clear reason, replaced with names nobody recognized. They weren't loud about it. They just appeared. They'd hover, take notes, make little adjustments. It wasn't like they were running things outright, more like they were watching, testing reactions. And they did strange things, subtle stuff, asking for background checks on volunteers who'd already cleared, rerouting internal comms through temporary systems nobody could verify, requesting access to attendee lists that had nothing to do with their role. What most people don't realize is that Erika had already started acting like CEO before Charlie even died. She was giving orders, making executive calls, speaking for the organization.
And then there's the sister's solemn tone, measured, careful, but unmistakably heavy, as if she knows more than she can say on camera. Was this a love story that collided with power? Or a polished narrative shielding something colder? We're not claiming facts. We're tracking what's being said, what people believe they've seen, and why so many are suddenly connecting dots. Stay with us, because if the sisters' hints are what they seem, the calm before the storm just ended. It started quietly, almost like any family story that hides its cracks beneath perfect smiles and carefully framed pictures. Charlie Kirk's sister never wanted to speak publicly. She had watched from the sidelines for years, respecting boundaries, letting the narrative unfold on its own. But then came the whispers, the strange coincidences, and the way every new piece of information seemed to fall exactly where it shouldn't. When she finally spoke, it wasn't anger in her voice. It was disbelief mixed with something close to fear. She said she remembered the moment she first met Erika. She was warm, polite, charming in that way that makes you feel like you've known someone forever, she recalled softly. But there was also something else, something off. It wasn't what Erika said. It was how she looked at people. Too observant, too aware of people close to the Kirk family. Things began to shift right after that so-called chance meeting in Israel. The family didn't think much of it then. Charlie sounded happy, almost relieved. He told his mother, "I think I finally met someone who gets it." He laughed, and they all believed it was the kind of love story he deserved after years of non-stop work. But as weeks turned into months, subtle differences began to show. Erika wasn't just stepping into Charlie's personal life. She was stepping into his professional one, too.
So we get to Bill's Burgers, and I'm there thinking it's a business interview.
It started that way.
Right. So we sit down, and you grill me for, 3 hours?
Yeah.
Easily. On philosophy, politics, religion, culture. Economics. What else? Everything else you can imagine, he grilled me. Anything he talks about on his podcast show, he grilled me on. Pretty much.
Just didn't record.
And then afterwards, he got finished with his burger, and he just sat there, and he looked at me. And he's like, "You know what? I'm not going to hire you." And I was like, "That's fine. I don't need this job." doing plenty of other.
She appeared at meetings, made introductions, spoke on his behalf. Some staffers said she had a strange authority about her, even when she wasn't officially part of TAPUSA yet. Then came the background checks, unusual, unnecessary ones. Volunteers who had already cleared security were suddenly being reviewed again, and no one could explain why. Internal communications began rerouting through systems that weren't standard company channels. People started feeling watched. One insider described it as an invisible fog settling over everything. At the same time, Erika's influence grew stronger. She was everywhere. Podcasts, panels, interviews, often speaking in ways that hinted she understood the political game far deeper than anyone expected. Charlie seemed proud at first, even protective. But slowly, that excitement dimmed. Family texts later revealed cracks behind the public smiles. In one message, Charlie reportedly told his sister, "She's not who I thought she was." Around this time, something odd began happening at events. Longtime team members were quietly replaced. New names appeared on guest lists that nobody recognized. People who questioned the changes found themselves transferred or frozen out. Still, Charlie stayed silent. Maybe he believed it was just growing pains. Or maybe, as some speculate, he was afraid to confront what he had started to suspect. The tension reached a quiet peak during a private leadership dinner. Witnesses recall an argument. Not loud, but sharp. Erika spoke in a calm, even voice, while Charlie's was strained. No one caught the words, but everyone felt the chill that settled afterward. One of the guests described it later as the moment the room changed forever. Fans online started connecting dots when old interviews resurfaced. In one clip, Erika sat with a faint smile and said, "Nothing happens by coincidence." At the time, it sounded philosophical. Now it sounds like foreshadowing. Soon after that, she began stepping into major decisions that had once been Charlie's alone. She attended meetings with donors, gave speeches that felt more like declarations of control. Insiders claim she even signed off on budget allocations before Charlie saw them. No one knew how she got access, but nobody wanted to ask. The mood inside TAPUSA had become tense, uncertain, and eerily quiet. The Kirk family noticed the change too. His sister said calls became shorter, messages vaguer. "He'd always been so open," she said. But then it was like talking to a different person. At family gatherings, Charlie seemed distracted, sometimes defensive. When his mother asked simple questions, he brushed them off, insisting everything was fine. But even through the phone, she could sense he didn't believe his own words. One night, weeks before things fell apart, Charlie sent a text to his sister that would later haunt her. "I think I'm being managed," he wrote. Not supported, managed. The following days blurred into confusion. Decisions were made without explanation. Key partnerships shifted direction. Donors who had once backed Charlie enthusiastically were suddenly aligning themselves with Erika. Those closest to the family whispered about phone calls from numbers that couldn't be traced, messages that vanished minutes after appearing. Some say Charlie tried to push back, that he started questioning the structure around him. But by then, the machine had already moved beyond his control. His sister described the last time she saw him alive. "He looked tired," she said quietly, "like he'd been carrying something too heavy for too long." She remembered the way he hugged her, tight, distracted, almost apologetic. He told me, "If anything ever happens, just know I tried to fix it." She didn't understand what he meant until later. When news of his death broke, it felt unreal. There were no clear answers, no closure. And yet, within days, Erika stepped forward with remarkable composure, announcing her leadership role as if it had already been planned. That's when the questions started multiplying. How could anyone move that fast in the middle of such grief? Who approved the transition? Who wrote the press release? Interview 417 Ter5 Tong in the aftermath, online speculation caught fire. Forums filled with claims about secret donors, hidden agendas, and the possibility that Charlie's marriage had been more strategic than romantic. Still, no proof emerged, only patterns, coincidences, and too many silences. His sister didn't want to believe any of it. She said grief does strange things, makes you see ghosts where there might be none. But then she found the old voice note, Charlie's voice, weary, but determined. "I don't even feel like I know her anymore," he said. "I can't tell who's really making the calls now." For her, that was the breaking point. She realized she couldn't stay quiet any longer. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was love. But she wanted people to hear what had been happening behind the scenes. Her words didn't accuse, they questioned. "How did everything change so fast?" she asked. "How did a love story become a chessboard?" Fans reacted instantly, flooding social media with theories, condolences, and anger. Some defended Erika, saying grief makes people act differently. Others demanded investigations, pointing to every strange detail like pieces of a puzzle. What stands out most in all this isn't the scandal. It's the silence. No official answers, no clarifications, just the same polished statements and vague reassurances. The family remains divided. His parents stay quiet, perhaps protecting what's left of their peace. The sister continues speaking carefully, saying only what she can verify, but her tone carries weight, the kind that makes people lean closer and what behind the headlines. It's easy to forget these are real people bound by loss, anger, and unanswered questions. But the story refuses to fade. Each new interview, each leaked message, each subtle reaction from those still inside Tapusa adds another thread to a tapestry of suspicion. People don't know what to believe anymore, only that something feels unresolved. And that feeling, more than any rumor, is what keeps everyone watching, waiting, and whispering. As the days rolled on, what had once been quiet unease grew into something larger, a hum beneath every conversation, a tremor in every smile. People close to the Kirk family began noticing how tightly Erika controlled the narrative. She spoke with calm precision in interviews, always positioning herself as the grieving widow, the devoted partner carrying on Charlie's mission. Her tone was flawless, no cracks, no hesitation, but to those who knew her privately, it felt rehearsed. One friend of the family described it best. It was like she'd memorized the perfect role for every camera angle. Meanwhile, the sister watched helplessly as story after story framed Erika as the beacon of strength. "I didn't want to destroy anyone's image," she said softly in a later interview. "But something inside me kept saying, this isn't the whole story." Behind the scenes, there were whispers about the weeks leading up to Charlie's death. Insiders claimed meetings had become strange, filled with unfamiliar faces and veiled instructions. Staff who questioned decisions were quietly replaced or reassigned. It was subtle, but deliberate. Emails were rerouted through temporary accounts, and documents carried digital signatures Charlie didn't remember approving. When he mentioned it to a colleague, the response was always the same. Erika's handling it. At first, he let it go. After all, she'd always been poised, efficient, and people listened when she spoke. But when those decisions began shaping Tapusa's direction in ways he didn't agree with, frustration started to show. A former assistant later said Charlie would pace the office after meetings, muttering that things didn't feel right. He'd open his mouth to confront someone, then stop himself, as if realizing too late that he no longer held the same authority. It wasn't about ego, it was about trust. He started asking who was actually giving the orders, the assistant recalled. That's when things got tense. One evening, an argument between him and Erika reportedly spilled into a private hallway after a fundraising gala. Witnesses said voices were low but sharp. She walked away composed. He looked shaken. The next morning, he canceled his schedule and stayed home. Meanwhile, social media began to pick up on inconsistencies. Followers noticed how announcements about leadership transitions came too fast, too polished. Statements felt pre-written, as if waiting for a trigger. Others pointed out how Erika's public appearances were coordinated with big donor events, her words mirroring key talking points almost word for word. Fans who once admired the couple's partnership started questioning whether Charlie had been isolated in his final months. Even his closest allies admitted they'd struggled to reach him. Phone calls went unanswered, and when he did respond, his tone felt off, guarded, distracted, mechanical. The sister described how those weeks haunted her. "I'd call and he'd sound like he was trying not to say something," she recalled. "He'd start a sentence, then stop. I'd hear him sigh, like he was staring at something he couldn't explain." She remembered one particular call, days before he died. He told me, "You ever feel like someone's rewriting your life while you're still living it?" She laughed it off at the time, thinking he was just exhausted. Now, that line echoes in her head every night. The timeline of events following his death only deepened the mystery. Less than 72 hours later, Erika appeared in public looking composed, wearing a soft smile, thanking supporters, and assuring them that TPUSA would continue Charlie's legacy without compromise. Insiders were stunned. "She didn't cry once," one of them said. "She just walked in and took control." Within days, memos went out announcing her as acting CEO. Board members who questioned the speed were told it was a temporary measure, yet no one could produce official minutes approving it. Her name began appearing on donor communications and press materials. It was as if she'd been preparing long before anyone realized there'd be a vacancy to fill. The Kirk family, meanwhile, had gone quiet. Mary Kirk, Charlie's mother, reportedly refused interviews. She told a close friend that she couldn't bring herself to attend the memorial in Arizona, saying it felt manufactured. The sister didn't go either. "It didn't feel like a goodbye," she said later. "It felt like a premiere." What confused fans even more was how quickly the event became a media spectacle. Cameras flashed, influencers posted tributes, and yet there was something off about the tone. Too polished, too planned. People began posting clips of Erika smiling as she greeted guests, laughing softly at jokes, her hands clasped neatly as if on stage. One tweet went viral. "She looks like she's hosting, not mourning." As these reactions spread, so did new layers of speculation. Online sleuths started digging into Erika's background. Screenshots of old interviews and company filings surfaced. A small but persistent community began connecting dots between her family's defense industry ties and her sudden rise within TPUSA. According to public records, her mother's firm had worked with federal contractors for years. Her father's name, previously absent from her personal narratives, appeared in older documents linked to defense-related ventures. These weren't random connections. They were threads leading to circles of serious influence. The sister admitted that at first, she dismissed these online theories as internet noise. But then, while sorting through Charlie's things, she found an envelope labeled personal. Inside were printed emails, correspondence between Charlie and a few unnamed donors. In one message, a frustrated line stood out. "If they think I'm just a face, they're wrong." Another email carried a brief note in Charlie's handwriting. "Don't let them turn me into a symbol." She didn't understand who they were, but the tone chilled her. Fans began demanding answers. The hashtag #OnJusticeForCharlie started trending, not as an accusation, but as a call for transparency. Erika responded online with a calm video, thanking supporters for their compassion and asking for privacy. Her voice trembled just enough to sound sincere, yet the comments were split down the middle. Some called her strong, others called her strategic. One popular comment read, "She's too calm for someone who lost everything." Through it all, the sister tried to maintain dignity. "I don't want revenge," she told a friend. "I just want the truth." She began releasing small details, not claims, just questions. Why had Charlie complained of pressure from donors? Why were key staff replaced in the final months? Why was the memorial moved so far from home? She didn't accuse anyone. She just asked. But those questions were enough to set off waves of speculation again. The emotional toll on the family was immense. His parents reportedly stopped speaking to certain friends they suspected of leaking details. The sister found herself followed by photographers when leaving her apartment. Even neighbors whispered, wondering what really happened behind the glamorous photos and public speeches. "We used to be proud of what he built," she said, tears slipping through her calm tone. "Now it feels like every memory comes with a question mark." What truly unsettled her, though, was a moment no one could explain. A week after the memorial, a package arrived at her door. Inside was a small wooden box with Charlie's initials carved into it. No return address, no message, just a flash drive. When she plugged it in, it contained one short video file. Charlie, sitting at his desk, speaking softly to the camera. "If you're seeing this," he said, "I guess I didn't get to explain everything." He paused, looked away, then added, "Trust your instincts." The video cut off there. No context, no explanation. She froze, staring at the screen, her heart pounding. That single sentence mirrored Erika's infamous line, the one she'd repeated in interviews and speeches. The coincidence was too perfect, too eerie, and as much as she wanted to dismiss it, she couldn't shake the feeling that Charlie had left a message meant to be found. The video haunted her. She played it over and over, searching for meaning in every blink, every pause, every nervous tap of his fingers on the desk. He looked exhausted but purposeful, like someone trying to warn without naming names. In the background, faintly visible on a glass board, were fragments of words: trust, handover, control. No one knew when it was recorded, but it was clear that Charlie hadn't intended for it to be public. That discovery sent his sister spiraling into a deeper maze of questions. Why would he record such a message? And why did it surface only after his death? She showed it to their mother, who sat in silence for nearly an hour before whispering, "He knew something." After that, the family's grief turned into determination. Mary Kirk began reaching out to old contacts, people Charlie had trusted in politics, business, and media. Some agreed to talk privately. What they said was unsettling. One mentioned that in the weeks before his death, Charlie had pulled funding from several major events, insisting he wanted to clean house. Another claimed he'd started auditing Tipusa's finances independently. And a third said he had confided that too many strings were being pulled by people I never invited to the table. All of this painted a picture that felt far more calculated than coincidental. Meanwhile, Erika maintained a calm, flawless public image. She appeared on podcasts, gave speeches about faith, leadership, and legacy, and thanked everyone for their support. Her words were soothing, but something about her timing felt off. Every statement came just as speculation flared, almost like a perfect counterbalance. Fans started calling it the Erika effect, the way she managed to shift attention just when questions grew louder. Her control over the narrative was uncanny. She framed herself as a symbol of strength and continuity, while subtly positioning critics as insensitive or conspiratorial. To the public, she was unshakable. To the family, she was unreadable. The sister tried once more to reach out. She sent Erika a long message. No accusations, just a plea for honesty. "Please tell me what Charlie was working on before he died," she wrote. "He seemed scared." Erika's reply came hours later, brief and cold. "I think you're letting your grief twist things. Focus on healing." That was the moment the sister realized communication was over. She could almost hear Charlie's voice echoing through the static. "Trust your instincts." Soon, journalists began picking up on the inconsistencies. An independent reporter published a piece titled "Timeline of a Takeover," mapping every major Tipusa leadership change before and after Charlie's death. The sequence was unnerving. New contracts were signed within days. Internal passwords were changed, and several of Charlie's projects were quietly rebranded under Erika's initiative. The public didn't see these details, but the people inside did. One former staff member, speaking under anonymity, described the transition as surgical. "We were grieving," he said. "And while we were crying in the hallways, decisions were being signed upstairs." The deeper the sister looked, the more it seemed like every layer led to another door. She started investigating the family connections people kept talking about: defense contracts, private security firms, and the elusive nonprofit Romanian Angels. The more she read, the stranger it got. The organization's mission statements looked noble: children, aid, international outreach, but buried in archived pages were mentions of strategic cooperation with U.S. military logistics partners. When she tried to contact one of the listed board members, the email bounced back. The phone number was disconnected. Online, theories exploded again. One viral thread suggested that Erika's family had long-standing ties to government contractors who specialized in communications security and data tracking. Another claimed that Charlie had started questioning these connections months before his death. Nothing was proven, but screenshots and documents started circulating. Some authentic, some questionable. The narrative was becoming impossible to control. Every day, new claims surfaced, new leaks appeared, and the truth seemed further away than ever. Through all this, Erika's demeanor never changed. She continued posting soft focus photos, sharing Bible verses, and thanking supporters. It was calculated serenity. When asked directly about the rumors, she smiled and said, "Grief attracts noise." Her calmness only fueled more outrage. Fans felt manipulated, insiders felt betrayed, and the family felt erased. The sister told a close friend, "It's like she's rewriting history while we're still mourning." A month later, a second video surfaced, this time from an anonymous source claiming to be a former staffer. It showed behind-the-scenes footage from a TPUSA event weeks before Charlie's death. The clip wasn't damning by itself, just Erika talking to someone off camera, but viewers noticed her exact phrasing. "We'll need to keep optics stable in case the leadership shifts earlier than planned." That single line ignited a storm. What leadership shift? Planned by whom? The video spread everywhere before being deleted from multiple platforms. Erika's team released a statement calling it maliciously edited, but the damage was done. The sister watched the chaos unfold, torn between sorrow and vindication. She didn't want to see anyone destroyed. She wanted clarity, but clarity was a luxury the story refused to give. Messages from unknown numbers began hitting her phone. Warnings to let it go. Reminders that truth doesn't always bring peace. She ignored them, but the fear lingered. She started sleeping with her phone on record mode, just in case. The emotional toll was suffocating. One night, unable to sleep, she returned to the flash drive. She played the video again, this time noticing something she'd missed before. A reflection in the glass behind Charlie's desk. A figure, blurred but distinct, standing just outside the office door. She froze the frame, her breath catching. The silhouette was small, familiar, with long hair pulled back. She didn't say the name out loud, but she didn't have to. Her hands trembled as she whispered to herself, "No, it can't be." That discovery changed everything. She realized the truth might never come out officially, but the evidence, real or not, had taken on a life of its own. Public curiosity had turned into obsession. Podcasts dissected every frame. Influencers speculated in long threads, and old colleagues who had stayed silent began leaking cryptic posts. Even people inside TPUSA started resigning quietly, citing irreconcilable differences. Every resignation added fuel to the fire. Yet amid the chaos, Erika seemed untouched. She continued her public appearances, quoting scripture and promoting unity. In one event, she even addressed the noise around Charlie's death, with a calm smile saying, "We must forgive the ones who can't move on." For many, that line was the final straw. "Forgiveness implies guilt," one commentator wrote. What exactly was she forgiving? The sister saw the clip and shut her laptop, shaking. "She's playing with his memory," she murmured. "And people are letting her." Her voice cracked under the weight of disbelief. No one wanted to hear her pain anymore. They wanted scandal, closure, something cinematic. But for her, this wasn't a story. It was a wound that refused to close. She didn't care about rumors or power or politics anymore. She just wanted to know why her brother had sounded so afraid, and why the people who loved him most were now treated like strangers in his legacy. The sister's world had become a blur of screens, headlines, and unanswered calls. Every morning, she woke to new speculation, new theories, and fresh pain disguised as curiosity. The internet had turned her brother's life into a puzzle for strangers to solve, while those who actually loved him were left to pick through the emotional wreckage. Yet, even as the noise grew deafening, one thought wouldn't leave her mind. That haunting reflection in the video, the blurred silhouette behind Charlie. She wanted to believe it was coincidence, a trick of light, but deep down she knew better. There were no coincidences anymore, not after everything that had unfolded. She decided to retrace her brother's final week, not through the media's version, but through her own quiet investigation. She spoke with the assistant who'd been closest to him, the one who described Charlie as a man drowning with his eyes open. He recalled that Charlie had spent hours in his office in those last days, making calls, scribbling notes, deleting them, then starting over. It was like he was planning something, the assistant said. Something big. One night, Charlie left the office late, stopped by a diner he never usually visited, and met with someone no one could identify. Then there was the memorial, that perfectly staged production that still haunted her dreams. She watched the footage again, studying Erika's movements. Every gesture was deliberate. The steady eye contact, the rehearsed emotion, the subtle pauses at just the right words. But what made her freeze wasn't Erika. It was a moment near the end, when the camera panned across the crowd. Seated in the third row was a man in a dark suit, watching intently. She recognized him from an old family photo, a business partner of her mother's from years ago, someone with known ties to government defense work. He had no reason to be at Charlie's memorial, yet there he was, smiling faintly, as if he understood something no one else did. As she pieced these fragments together, a pattern began forming. One she could neither confirm nor deny, but couldn't unsee either. Charlie had been pushing against something powerful, invisible, and deeply connected to the very people who once supported him. And Erika, whether knowingly or not, had become the face of that force. What terrified the sister most wasn't the possibility that her brother had been betrayed. It was the idea that maybe he'd seen it coming and tried to stop it. She began to suspect that the flash drive hadn't been left by accident. It was his final attempt to speak from beyond the wall closing in around him. Still, she stayed careful. She avoided making accusations, sticking to her truth and her questions. But even that came with consequences. Her social media accounts were suddenly flagged for unusual activity. Emails she never sent appeared in her outbox. One night her phone rang from her own number. When she answered, there was nothing but silence, and then a click. She didn't tell her mother about it, didn't tell anyone. She just kept going, quietly recording every detail, every inconsistency. "If I disappear," she whispered in a voice memo, "let them know I didn't stop looking." Meanwhile, Erika launched a new campaign under Tapusa's banner, promoting unity, faith, and what she called the continuation of Charlie's purpose. Glossy posters, pristine interviews, staged community drives. It was all too perfect. To the outside world, she seemed unstoppable, a woman rebuilding from tragedy, but those close enough to see the cracks noticed the tension in her eyes when certain names were mentioned. At one event, a journalist asked about the leaked messages between Charlie and his sister, the ones where he said, "I don't even feel like I know her anymore." Erika smiled thinly and replied, "Grief makes people remember things differently." The audience applauded, but her hands trembled as she adjusted the microphone. The sister kept her distance, but one night she received an email from an anonymous address titled, "For Your Eyes, Only." Attached was a document, internal TPUSA notes with timestamps aligning perfectly with the day Charlie recorded his final message. Among the entries was a line that made her skin crawl. Leadership transition protocol initiated per prior discussion. External factors approved. No signatures, no names, but the implication was chilling. She didn't know whether to trust it or fear it. The information felt too precise to be random, yet too risky to reveal. She printed it, locked it away, and stared at the wall for hours. She wondered if Charlie had known this document existed, if this was the reason for his fear. She wanted to expose it, to shout it from the rooftops. But then she thought of her mother, frail from the stress, and the endless online cruelty that would follow. She knew she couldn't win against the noise machine that had already rewritten the narrative. So she did what Charlie would have done. She turned to the people. The sister decided to speak again, this time on camera. No theatrics, no dramatic music, just her in a dimly lit room. Voice steady but raw. "You've all heard stories," she began. "You've seen the interviews, the posts, the smiling faces, but there's another side, the one no one wants to talk about. My brother was trying to protect something. I don't know what it was, but he died scared. And I think someone out there knows why." She didn't accuse anyone directly. She simply asked viewers to keep asking questions, to keep looking beyond what they were told. The video spread like wildfire. Millions watched within days. Comment sections overflowed with shock, sympathy, and outrage. Some called her brave, others called her delusional. Erika's camp issued a brief statement wishing her peace and closure. But behind the polished language, the tension was unmistakable. A source close to the organization leaked that emergency meetings were being held. that damage control teams were scrambling to contain the fallout. For the first time, the silence cracked. People began stepping forward, former staffers, volunteers, and quiet observers who had seen too much. They didn't have proof, only fragments. A deleted file here, a strange meeting there, a whisper about donors who pulled out at the last minute. It wasn't enough to prove anything, but it was enough to remind everyone that truth doesn't vanish. It just hides until someone is brave enough to chase it. The sister found solace in that. "He didn't die for nothing," she said softly one night, watching old footage of Charlie laughing on stage. "They can twist his story, but they can't erase who he was." She placed the flash drive in a small box and tucked it into her desk drawer. She didn't know if she'd ever open it again, but somehow, knowing it existed gave her peace. In the end, what remained wasn't evidence or confession. It was the echo of unfinished sentences, the weight of unanswered questions, and a family's quiet determination to keep their memory of Charlie intact. The world moved on, but whispers lingered. Every now and then, a new thread would appear online. A photo, a quote, another theory. And somewhere in the shadows of those discussions, the sister's voice would return, calm but unyielding. "We're not saying it happened. We're saying it's what people are starting to see, and maybe that was enough, for now." Because sometimes the loudest truth isn't shouted in headlines. It's carried in the quiet persistence of those who refuse to stop asking why. So what really happened behind those closed doors? Was it just grief, coincidence, and timing, or something far more deliberate? The truth remains tangled in whispers, leaked messages, and stories that never quite align. Every time we think we've reached the end, another fragment surfaces, another connection raises its head, and we're left wondering if Charlie's words, "Nothing happens by coincidence," were more than just a passing thought. As fans keep revisiting the footage, the interviews and those chilling text messages, one thing's for certain, the story isn't over. The sister's voice continues to echo through every conversation online, every theory, every new "what if" that refuses to fade. Maybe it's about power, maybe it's about image, or maybe it's about a man who realized too late that he was part of a game much bigger than himself. But what do you think? Was Erika's rise just fate playing out? Or was it something planned all along? Drop your thoughts down below. We read every single one. Don't forget to hit like if you believe the truth always finds a way to surface. Share this video so more people can see what's being said, and subscribe to stay part of this investigation as it unfolds. Because if there's one thing we've learned from stories like this, it's that silence never lasts forever. It never lasts forever.